Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday to you. Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with this week's market overview and a few stocks to watch. Let's go ahead and get right into it. We'll take a look at the economic calendar for next week and let's see, and take a look at the earnings calendar as well. So economic calendar, we do not have a lot going on. We do have FOMC minutes coming out, existing home sales, weekly jobless claims, and then the big deal is going to be the Jackson Hole Symposium. We got Jerome Powell speaking on Friday, and the Jackson Hole Symposium goes through all day Saturday. So likely on CNBC and other financial news networks, you're going to have all kinds of people popping up and giving their opinions on inverted yield curve and you know the markets and global concerns and all this trade wars and all kinds of opinions will be coming out. So we'll see how that impacts the market. And then we have a big week ahead for earnings in the retail sector, right? We got Kohl's, Home Depot, Target, Lowe's. I mean, all kinds of retail names that are reporting. I think the Home Depot earnings report is definitely something you probably want to keep an eye on. I think it has a good looking daily chart, and then there's I've got another chart within that space that I think could be interesting for the pro members, actually, as a sympathy play if Home Depot gives a nice report and we get some kind of nice action in Home Depot. But other than that, as you can imagine, not a crazy, I'm not super crazy about this week. As far as retail plays, I don't like playing retail, so there's not a lot off of the earnings list this week that I would be looking to trade. So I actually pulled some other names off of the pro member list this week and put them on the free list. So we'll go through that in a minute, but it could be an interesting week for that space, for that sector. All right, so let's take a look real quick here at. Actually, let's go to. There we go. Let's take a look at the individual sectors. Last week, I indicated that a lot of sectors out there have it's better to be cautious. Right now, there are a lot of charts that or sectors that look, guilty till proven innocent. That remains the same this week. We just have some charts that look like they are struggling, right? So IBB trying to come back above this trend line here, finding some resistance below the 50-day, below the 200-day, right? Although I think there are some names within the biotech space that have pretty good looking charts. Individual stock by stock basis, right? But the sector itself does look like it's struggling. If we can get back above the 50 and 200 day and hold there, that could be a positive sign. IWM, so, this one was a concern last week, remains a concern this week. I will say this, though. We have a potential double bottom where maybe we're finding some price support. And we did bounce a little bit on Friday. Again, if we can get back above the 50 and 200 day and hold, that would be a positive development for the IWM. But I think we're going to have some resistance here at this trend line, right? At the underside of that trend line, I think we will have some resistance. So, but that doesn't mean we can't get a nice little bounce, nice little rally within the small cap space. IYT broke below this trend line, came back up, tested the bottom side of that trend line, and broke right back down. So again, we have the same kind of situation we just saw on the IWM where we could have a double bottom test. If we break that, though, then where is our next level of potential support? And that could be somewhere down in the 170 range. Let's see, 165. See if that, and then if that doesn't hold, maybe we're coming back down for a retest of that December low. So that is a little bit concerning in the transportation space. QQQ's trying to hold on to this trend line, pierced below it, managed to close above it, above the 200-day. That's a positive thing. Below the 50-day, that's a negative thing. We'll see how it plays out. But SMH kind of got a bear flag look here. Closed below. Did it close above the 50? It looks like it kind of closed above the 50 actually. But kind of a bear flag look there. You know, I wouldn't get real concerned about SMH unless we broke this trend line and started heading towards the 200-day moving average. I would look at that as an area for potential support. But right now, SMH is looking a little guilty till proven innocent, right? SPY, S&P 500, trying to hold above the 200-day and trying to hold on to this trend line. TVIX, UVXY, volatility was pretty crazy last week, but boy, you know, if you're trying to get aggressively short or trying to play volatility aggressively long, it's been challenging, right? Because we had the big down day on Monday, and then we got a little bit of a snapback day, and then we had a big down day, so it's kind of all over the place. And I look for that volatility to stick around. These could be short-term trading opportunities. Don't chase them and don't hold any significant size overnight in TVX, UVXY, but they can set up intraday for a potential short-term trading opportunity if we see some real weakness and some fear in the marketplace. Aerospace defense remains one of my favorite sectors out there. Pulled back, tested this trend line, bounced off of it, trying to reclaim the 50-day moving average. This sector has held up the strongest. There are a couple of names within the sector that I would like as swinger long-term hold considerations. They're kind of in an interesting spot. Goldman Sachs came out on one last week. KTOS gave it a nice upgrade. That thing gapped up on Friday. Held. Actually, I'd like to get it in the 17 and change range. But this is probably one of my favorite sectors, and this is not the sector I'm referring to as a potential swing trade next week or for the upcoming week. The sector that I think could be interesting, probably going to surprise you. XHB home builders below the 50-day, breaking below the trend line, testing the underside of that trend line. I think potentially we could be coming down to test that 200-day moving average in home builders. Again, guilty till proven innocent. XLB, building materials. So interesting thing about building materials is Home Depot and Lowe's, I believe, are in that ETF. If Home Depot reports a decent number, good guide, you could see a decent bounce within the XLB here. And this is trying to hold on to the 200-day as well as the this trend line here. Now, the sector that I actually am thinking is kind of interesting, and I find it interesting that actually Barron's, and it kind of actually disappointed me a little bit, because I was mentioning it to the pro members on Friday that there were some energy names that are getting to levels that could be short-term trading opportunities. I'm not suggesting that we're going to see a big reversal in the space, and and this downtrend that it's been in forever is over, but there could be some bounce trade opportunities within that space, some short-term swing names. There are a couple of names that I just like the way they've set up on the daily, even as these ETFs and oil was struggling a bit. These things held up fairly well. So it could be an opportunity for a short-term trade, short-term swing trades in some of these names. I've got a few of them that I'm going to be putting out to the pro members. I don't think I have one on. I don't have one on the free list here, but I think, take a look in that space, in that sector. If you have a couple of favorite energy names, might take a look at them maybe for just a short-term trading opportunity. XLF Financials, double bottom, below the 200-day, trying to reclaim it. Looks like maybe it closed above the 200-day, but financials could be finding some support here. XLI Industrials, I was a bit surprised that we actually closed up on Friday. Industrials, John Deere actually, I think they reported a weak number, but actually held up pretty well. Industrials may be finding some potential price support here. So below this trend line, coming to the underside, see if this acts as resistance. We get another move lower, but industrials actually kind of surprised me on Friday. XLP, consumer staples, right, continues to show some strength, and this is more of considered a safety trade. Maybe that's because of the environment out there, but XLP, that's another sector that actually looks pretty good. XLV, healthcare, below this trend line, testing the underside, testing the 200-day as potential support. It's broke, it did break below the 200 days, trying to reclaim it. XLY, consumer discretionary, pulled back to an area of potential price support above the 200-day moving average. Kind of an interesting space. Retail numbers looked, actually retail sales numbers were pretty strong last week, and kind of indicating the consumer is doing okay. I don't know. We'll have to see how this consumer discretionary sector performs over the next couple of weeks. But again, this is one that's guilty till proven innocent. Broke below that trend line, below the 50-day moving average. Maybe finding some support here. And then XOP, oil and exploration, looks like grim death. Right? But for some reason, I'm thinking that we could possibly see a short-term trading opportunity in that space, oil and exploration. And did I pull up XRT? Where's XRT? Let's bring it up. Hold on. XRT. This also looks like grim death, right? So it could be a big week for XRT. I mean, it took out the December lows, right? So that's kind of a big deal. Maybe it gets a snapback. If we get better than expected earnings out of some of these retail players, if they really disappoint, we could be heading to new lows. So careful in the retail space. All right, now let's take a look at the T2107, T2106, T2108, T2106 McClellan oscillator fear indicator. Kind of fiddle in the middle going into next week, right? Did get a little bit extreme during the week last week, or was pulling back, and we got a nice little bounce. We'll see if we go back and retest this negative 180 area if we get some kind of sell-off. T2107, kind of fiddle in the middle, right? The amount of stocks, percentage of stocks above their 200-day moving average. Remember, below 20, overdone. Above 70 and above, overdone to the upside. T2108 is the amount of stocks over the 40-day, was starting to get, head towards this 20. Actually held up fairly well here. We get down, below 20. Things are getting overdone on the sell side, over 70 and above, and probably a little bit overdone on the upside, but trying to hold on to that 2180 level. All right, so no extremes either way, right? We're just kind of fiddle in the middle. All right, and that is that. Let's take a look at the stocks to watch for next week. Trove has a potential catalyst coming this week. Recent reverse split, very tiny float. Started getting a little action last week. It's popping up into this 50-day moving average. Potential red to green continuation day trade type stock ahead of its event. I think it's on Thursday. I would not hold this through the event, through the data. I would maybe look to play it ahead of it. You look at, I mean, after they release the data, could it get some kind of a crazy run like, what was it, PSTV? PSTV. So recent reverse split. No news. They changed their symbol, and look at what this thing does. Pure short squeeze on PSTV. This thing could wind up doing a red to green and continue to squeeze the shorts. It tends to be a pop and flopper though, but it's had a couple of 2-day runs. So this thing could get interesting for a potential trading opportunity. Very high risk, very small float. This thing has less than a million shares in the float, traded 16 million shares on Friday. Trovenge could have, some kind of a short squeeze opportunity in it as well. So it's worth having on the radar. High risk, right? High risk, know that, but potential day trading opportunity with a nice intraday setup. This thing may be gapping actually pre-market because there's a lot of eyeballs on this thing. So V-Ray, so this was on last week's pro member list as a potential snapback play. Actually had a very nice move for the week, up I think 40 something percent. But there were some insider buys in the 388 range. If this thing pulls back to 380, 350, or you get a double bottom pull into the $3 range, I think it could be interesting for another bounce play. It did consolidate a little bit, and then Friday got a little bit of follow, but I think potentially this thing pops up into the 8 EMA right below the $5 Hala, finds some resistance, and then you get maybe a pullback. But V-Ray could be another trading opportunity next week. ENPH, right? So this thing had a big pop off of earnings. It's been in consolidation mode, testing the $32 Hala. And I think there's a pretty big short position in ENPH. This thing is really consolidating well. Just a trading opportunity with some volume. Take out 33 or 32.50 with some volume. I think potentially you're going up to test 34 bucks. Let's just take a look here at I want to make sure. Yeah, this is all-time highs. I mean, this thing is extended on the longer time frame, but I think you got some people that are trapped in this thing that are hoping it's going to pull back someday. It had this big pop off of earnings, and it worked its way back into the Bollinger Band. It's consolidating nicely, just for a potential day trading opportunity with volume on a break over 32.50 could be interesting in ENPH. Bison, this is one of the only stocks that is reporting this week that I do find somewhat interesting. Could get a nice move if they report good earnings and give a strong guide. I would wait until after earnings, and it tends, even with good earnings, it's tended to pop and pull initially. So could be a day trading opportunity there or a short-term swing. Let's see what the earnings look like, but I think it's at least worth having on the radar. You do have the 50 above the 200-day. You're above the 200-day moving average. There is we've got an upward trend going here. I think it's worth at least keeping an eye on Bison. QD reported earnings last week, actually, and pulled back right to the 50-day, and this has got a pretty interesting candle here, right? So pulled back to the 50-day, bounced off of it, testing the $9 Hala as potential resistance, maybe looking for some follow through, a break over 920 with conviction. Maybe you get a pop up into the $10 range. QD, I think a lot of eyeballs are on this one as well. I think that was an interesting candle on Friday with some pretty good volume. Looking for a potential continuation. Maybe you look for a pullback to 860, 850 as an entry. Put your stop below 8. And you're looking for a break over 920 or so with authority and potentially heading up into the $10 holla. So that's what I'm looking for on QD. Could be a higher risk swing or a day trade with volume. PSTG, so another one that is reporting earnings this week. Ugly daily, gap down, bear flag kind of look. It's not exactly a thin stock either, but maybe this is a bottom area, right? If they report a better than expected earnings report, decent guide, maybe this gets a nice pop, but I would not chase it. You know, look for an intraday setup on this one. Twitter, hard to deny that Twitter has a good looking daily setup. I mean, this is a big, thick stock. You know, probably more of a swing or long-term hold consideration on Twitter. I think you close the gap, you pull back to $39. That could be a very interesting spot to dip. 38.50 to 39, I think, could be an interesting spot to dip for a swing on Twitter. And then last one off of the free list here is JMIA. Now I think it's Citron that's short on this. Pretty much called it a fraud. They report earnings, and I think that is either Tuesday or Wednesday after the close. Hold on a second. Wednesday before the market opens, and that PSTG, they report on Wednesday after the close, and Bison is also Wednesday before the open. So, this is not a good looking chart, right? Pretty clear downtrend. We've taken out lows. So really we don't have any area of reference for, well, actually we do, 1140, right? If it breaks below 1140, who knows where this thing stops, but could get a bounce if they report decent earnings and give a good guide. And like I said, I think there's a big short interest there, so could get a little squeezy. I wouldn't chase it, right? But at least maybe have it on the radar. Okay, so one thing I wanted to bring to your attention is maybe you've noticed on the blog that Geo Investing, I have them on the blog as a very interesting opportunity for those that are interested in micro caps. Maj has a very interesting style. He is more of an investor than he is a day trader or scalper, and one of the guys in this industry that I really, really, truly respect, mainly because of what he does with his research, and he's had some amazing calls. And anyway, I am excited to announce that I will be interviewing Maj live in a webinar event in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. As soon as we figure out what day and time, I will put it out on Twitter, and it's going to be limited seating. I think 100 participants. I will record it, and I haven't decided if after I record it if I will put it back out. But the guy has a tremendous amount of knowledge, and look, even if you're just only interested in microcap, or you're not interested in microcaps, you can apply what he does to your research, fundamental research of any size company, right? I mean, very, very, very sharp guy. So really looking forward to that. Keep your eye out for that. And that's it. Have a, it could be another wild week, right? Could be another wild week ahead. Be careful. A lot of guilty till proven innocent out there. So be careful and keep an eye on the energy space. It could be interesting over the next couple of weeks or so. All right? All right, that's it. Be safe. Good luck trading, and I'll see you all next week.